Hello, namaskar. This is Firstpost and you're watching Vantage with me, Palki Sharma. Tonight, we begin with a riot in the US, in Los Angeles, California. The images are quite dramatic. Protesters and lawmakers clashing with the National Guard. US President Donald Trump has deployed troops. The California governor is calling him a dictator. As the city burns, the matter has reached courts. We'll tell you all about it. Also, why riots in California, a state with a $4 trillion economy, will hurt America in more ways than one. And as Trump unleashes soldiers on Americans, why isn't the West lecturing him and talking about a backsliding democracy? Meanwhile, the FBI chief went on a podcast and sought India's help to fight the fentanyl drug crisis in the US. We'll also tell you why Brazil plans to buy panda bonds to woo China, why Saudi Arabia deployed American missiles to protect the Hajj pilgrimage, how Colombia's presidential hopeful was shot in the head twice, what Macron's visit to Greenland says about his geopolitical ambitions, how Thailand and Cambodia are clashing over an old border dispute, and why Iran has banned dog walking in many cities. All this and more coming up. The headlines first. A new round of US-China trade talks begin in London. Both sides are trying to resolve a long-running trade war. Chinese rare earth exports are expected to top the agenda. Beijing's access to American tech products is also up for discussion. China's exports grew slowly in May, missing market expectations. Official data shows a 5% rise, down from 8% in April. Imports fell even more sharply. Experts say this signals a weak domestic demand. And India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi completes 11 years in office today. He was first elected in 2014 as the Prime Minister of the country. He's currently serving his third term in office. He's the first Indian leader after Jawaharlal Nehru to achieve this feat. Russia launches its biggest drone attack in Ukraine. Kiev says more than 400 drones were fired overnight. Its air force shot down almost all of them, says Kiev. These strikes come amid an American push for a ceasefire. President Donald Trump has urged Russia to pursue negotiations. And Russia says it wants to deepen military ties in Africa. This comes amid reports that the Wagner Group has left Mali. The Russian mercenary group's presence has long been controversial. Mali's junta denies the claim, saying it only hosts Russian trainers in the country.
We hit.
Los Angeles is on fire again, but this time it's not wildfires, it's riots. And what lit the spark was a whisper, the rumor of an anti-immigration raid. By nightfall, that whisper turned into a war cry and the streets of LA exploded. Cars were torched, freeways were blocked, journalists were hit by bullets. The National Guard was on the streets. On one side is a Republican president who wants to crush the unrest. On the other is a Democratic governor who refuses to back down. It looked like a scene from a movie from the land of Hollywood. But this time there were no cameras, there was only chaos. The riots have gone on for 3 days. Today is day 4. It's much quieter today, although there are small sporadic protests. 60 people have been arrested and there's still tension in the air.
As far as people worried about the violence that we're seeing, This violence that I've seen is disgusting. It's escalated now since the beginning of this incident. What we saw the first night was bad. What we've seen subsequent to that is getting increasingly worse and more violent.
So how did all of this begin? Why did Los Angeles turn into a flashpoint? And what exactly is Donald Trump trying to do here? Let's go back to Friday. It all started in Paramount. It's a working-class suburb in LA. It is home to tens of thousands of Hispanic families. In fact, they make up 82% of the population here. 82%. And for a lot of these people, their immigration status is a point of concern. On Friday, a rumor started spreading. It said that there were ICE vehicles in the neighborhood. What is ICE? ICE stands for Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE. It's the American agency that monitors immigration. The rumor was that this agency was conducting a raid, an immigration raid at a Home Depot nearby. It's where undocumented workers go. A lot of them pick up shifts at this depot. They heard that immigration officials were raiding the place, and this sent shockwaves through the community. By sundown, the rumor ignited something far bigger. It sparked protests. Authorities say there were no raids, but that did not stop the people. They descended on the streets. Take a look at this. Over the weekend, it got worse. The riots spread on Friday and Saturday. There were reports in many parts. There were protests, rather, in many parts. The main Los Angeles city, the suburbs of Paramount and Compton. Until then, most of these protests were peaceful. A gas station was vandalized. A few cars were damaged. But beyond this, there was nothing major. Now, Los Angeles is located in the U.S. state of California. It is a Democratic state, meaning they vote for the Democrats. Remember, Donald Trump belongs to the Republican Party, so California is technically an opposition state. Their governor is a man called Gavin Newsom. He said the protest was under control and that local authorities were handling it. They'd also arrested 2 people. So the leadership in California said that they will handle it, but Donald Trump was having none of it. He was done with the quote-unquote lawlessness. So on Saturday, the U.S. president decided to intervene. He mobilized the California National Guard. He did not consult with Governor Gavin Newsom. Trump just bypassed the state, and to do this, he invoked a law. It's controversial. It's a very rare move in American history, and we will talk about the legality of this move, but for the moment, let's tell you what happened. Trump invoked this law and deployed some 2,000 soldiers in LA.
Be watching it very closely, and when they spit at people, you know, they spit, that's their new thing, they spit, and worse, you know what they throw at them, right? And when that happens, I have a little statement, they say, they spit, we hit. And I told them, nobody's going to spit on our police officers. Nobody's going to spit on our military.
By Sunday morning, the troops were in Los Angeles, and that made things much worse. There was absolute mayhem on the streets. Protesters faced off with the National Guard. Clashes broke out. There were tear gas and bullets everywhere. Cars were set on fire. There were some reports of looting as well. Even the press was caught up in this. An Australian news correspondent was reporting on the protest. She was struck by a rubber bullet. It was fired by a police officer. In the video, the officer can be seen turning towards the camera and firing.
You're just seeing them on through the heart of LA. You just shot the.
You okay?
I'm good.
In another instance, a British photographer was in the line of fire. He was struck by a sponge bullet. He had to get surgery for it. So you can imagine how things got heated up. Today, the protests have mellowed down, but now a legal battle has begun, a constitutional cage match. Governor Gavin Newsom is slamming the U.S. president over the deployment of the troops. He's called it abuse of power. The LA mayor has called it, and I'm quoting, a dangerous escalation. Officials are urging protesters to not engage in violence. Newsom says Trump just wants a spectacle, and he's asking the people of LA to not give him one. But the Trump administration remains defiant. Cracking down on immigration was Trump's big election promise. In fact, he also appointed a man to oversee it, Tom Homan. He's called Trump's border czar. And he has now threatened to arrest the California governor. And the U.S. president seems to be supporting the idea. Listen to what he said.
California officials could face federal charges if they stand in the way of the deportation.
Things will stand in the way of law and order, yeah, they will face charges.
The thing is, this is not a first. Not the first time Los Angeles is burning over questions of power and race. It happened in 1992. There were riots when the police brutally beat up an African-American man. After that, the police officers were acquitted, and that is when the city exploded. The National Guard was deployed. But back then, it was done at the request of the state governor. This time, Donald Trump has done it on his own. He has bypassed the elected officials of California state. And the result is this: a constitutional gray zone that feels dangerously unstable. Because if the president can send troops to California, he can do the same with other states. What's stopping him from sending troops to other democratic states and cities like Chicago or New York or Portland? That's what Trump's critics are asking. And as the situation evolves, it looks like Los Angeles just became ground zero for America's next constitutional battle. Donald Trump never shies away from a fight, from NATO to China, from trade partners to his own party men, and more recently, his first buddy, Elon Musk. Trump takes on everyone. His latest target is California, a state ruled by the opposition Democratic Party, a state that has witnessed violence and protest over immigration. As we just told you, it happened in Los Angeles. Trump wants to crush the protest and liberate Los Angeles. That's how he put it, liberating LA. And for this, he decided to use the U.S. military.
Well, we're going to have troops everywhere. We're not going to let this happen to our country. We're not going to let our country be torn apart like it was under fight at this photo pen.
Trump did not waste any time. He signed off on a presidential order and sent 2,000 troops to Los Angeles. It's the most populous city in the state of California, led by a Democrat called Gavin Newsom. And Newsom was quite clear. He did not want troops to be deployed. He said there was no emergency and that the state could handle the protest. But Trump was not convinced, and he took an extreme step. You see, troop deployments within the country are rare, and troop deployments without the state's consent are extremely rare. But Trump's decision fits an old pattern because he has targeted California before. In the past, he criticized the state's climate policies. He cut funding to the state, and he repeatedly mocked their leadership. On many occasions, Trump has called Newsom names. And now Gavin Newsom is fighting back, calling Trump a dictator and blaming him for the violence. Meanwhile, on the streets of LA, lawmakers are clashing with troops.
What are you going to do? You going to shoot some kid who's afraid of you and run? You going to shoot an elected official? If you shoot me, you better shoot straight. I don't know why you're in my city. You did. The governor was not contacted. This is Trump and his outrageous attempt to not only target our sanctuary city, but to frighten us and intimidate us.
That was a Californian lawmaker. This battle has reached the courts. California is suing the U.S. President Donald Trump. The state is challenging the legality of the troop deployment. So this is headed towards a full-blown constitutional showdown. This is no longer just about restoring order. It's about who gets to define that order. The United States is built on a balance, you see, between state governments and Washington. In the U.S. system, states enjoy significant autonomy. But when a president overrides a governor, that balance is lost, and the consequences can be serious. Also, California is not just any other state. It's a political powerhouse. It has the largest number of electoral votes. It is also an economic engine for the United States. California's GDP is more than $4 trillion. $4 trillion for one state. That's bigger than many nation states. It's bigger than Japan, the United Kingdom, France, Italy, Canada, among others. California is also a global hub for a range of industries, from technology to entertainment, from innovation to investment. The Silicon Valley is based here, so is Hollywood. These industries, like all industries, need policy stability. They need it to survive and thrive. But Donald Trump's actions have sown chaos. In fact, chaos has become a defining feature of his presidency. Bit by bit, Trump is chipping away at American institutions. He has threatened trade partners. He has attacked the US Federal Reserve. He has targeted universities like Harvard, and now he's going after an entire state. Investors are taking note. Some foreign funds have put a new condition. They're demanding a risk premium before putting money into US assets. Why? Because they fear political interference. They fear that their investment can be confiscated or penalized. And neighbors like Mexico have also expressed concern.
We disagree with this approach to addressing the migration phenomenon. We won't address the migration phenomenon with raids or violence. We will address it by sitting down and working on comprehensive immigration reform that considers all Mexicans across the border. That is our position, and it always calls for peace and nonviolence.
Yet Donald Trump remains unmoved. He frames these fights as reform, as a crusade against what he calls a broken system. In fact, his battle with California is just the latest front. This is a test case. What is happening in Los Angeles today could happen in any other American state tomorrow, and the consequences will be felt beyond America's borders. Because at the end of the day, this is not just about immigration, this is about power, and Trump doesn't want to share it. Burnt police cars, thrashed protesters, and tear gas in the air. I thought this only happened in the third world, maybe in Asia or Africa. Surely not in the land of freedom. And what's with all the rubber bullets and flashbangs? Why not hold talks with the protesters? Why not let them block highways to make a point? Sounds absurd, doesn't it? Well, this is what we usually hear from Washington, D.C., lectures and advice. Just imagine these scenes in South Africa or India or Kenya. The US would be all over us. They would be noting the protests with concern. They would be advising restraint. And they would be reminding governments of the rule of law. But now those scenes are happening in California. There is no restraint or rule of law. There is absolute carnage. Reporters are being attacked with rubber pellets. Public property is being burnt and protesters are being tear gassed. Where is the global outrage? So far, we've only heard from non-Western countries. Mexico, for instance, has slammed Trump's immigration raids.
We disagree with this approach to addressing the migration phenomenon. We won't address the migration phenomenon with raids or violence. We will address it by sitting down and working on comprehensive immigration reform that considers all Mexicans across the border.
China has a consulate in Los Angeles. It has issued an advisory for Chinese citizens: monitor official announcements, take more precautions, and avoid going to crowded places. That is what China has told its people. India does not have a diplomatic mission in the city, but India does have a consulate in San Francisco, though so far no advisory has been issued. We say it's about time. Los Angeles is home to about 150,000 Indians and Indian Americans. It is the home of Hollywood. It is the home of the 2028 Olympics. If this city is not safe, people deserve to know. Because this is so unpredictable. If you're a migrant, you can be raided anytime. If you own a business, you could lose everything in a riot. If you're a cop, You could be attacked by protesters. If you're a protester, you could be tear gassed. And if you're a journalist, you could be shot by security officials. I wonder what that's worth in a press freedom report. Surely a couple of ranks. But so far, most countries have been silent. The usual suspects have no lecture to give, no moral outrage to display, and no criticism to level. Because it's all about politics and convenience. Just think about it. The US government is talking about deploying the army against its own people, not terrorists or rebels, but protesters. Imagine if this happened anywhere else. Every Western government would have lined up to criticize, to give unsolicited advice. But because it's America, they're silent. It's about time we call out this hypocrisy. The truth is, America is a backsliding democracy. Their president is a convicted felon. Their protesters are arsonists. Their women have no rights over their body. They are illegally raiding citizens and migrants. They're banning travelers on the basis of religion. They're barring media outlets over ideology, and they're using force to quell dissent. 20 years back, the US military would have invaded this country. I mean, it checks all the boxes. An authoritarian leader, a lot of gas and oil, and a fractured political landscape. It's the perfect nation-building mission for America. And I know a lot of US politicians will spin this differently, especially the Democrats. They will say Trump's raids and deportations are illegal, that they're un-American, that they will divide the society. Well, we say, wake up to the new reality of your country. This is not un-American. This is on point for you. Let me show you the latest opinion poll. 54% Americans approve of Trump's deportations, 54%. 42% said it is making them safer. I know it's easy to blame Trump and move on, but the fact is Americans want this. Yes, the policy is divisive, illegal, and high-handed, but most of America wants exactly that. There is no point pretending that your country is better than this. You're only as good as the people you elect. So ditch the moral high ground, stop lecturing other countries, and get your house in order. And speaking about US failures, let's look at their war on fentanyl. It's a very potent opioid drug. Even a small quantity can kill you, and right now it's spreading havoc in the US. Last year alone, fentanyl killed almost 49,000 people, 49,000 in a year. So simply put, it's a national crisis. President Donald Trump has promised to end this problem, and apparently he's getting help from India. Says who? The chief of FBI, Kash Patel. FBI is the Federal Bureau of Investigation, their domestic intelligence and security service. It is led by an Indian American called Kashyap Patel, better known as Kash Patel. He went on a podcast last week and he said that he is running operations in India. Listen to this.
What China doing now to get cute is they're not shipping fentanyl straight to here. They're going to places like India. And I'm also doing operations in India. I literally just got off the phone with the Indian government. I said, I need your help. This stuff's coming into your country, and then they're moving it from your country.
Now let me break it down for you. First, some basic information about fentanyl. Like I said, it's an opioid drug. In hospitals, it is mainly used for pain management. Say you're a late-stage cancer patient or you've just got out of surgery, then doctors may prescribe fentanyl for you. The problem is, this drug is very potent. It is 30 to 50 times more potent than heroin, almost 100 times more potent than morphine. Even 2 milligrams of fentanyl can be fatal. It can kill you, 2 milligrams. In the US, this drug has caused a nationwide crisis. There have been 3 waves of fentanyl outbreaks in the late 1990s, in 2010, and in 2013. And in this time, 564,000 Americans have died from overdose, 564,000. In 2021 alone, 100,000 people died. Which brings us to India and China. Where do they come in? Well, China is the top producer of opioid drugs. The US says Beijing exports the raw inputs from Mexico. Drug cartels convert them into fentanyl, and finally it is smuggled across the border into the US. So Washington claims that China is behind this epidemic. In fact, Kash Patel went a step further. He feels it's a conspiracy.
In my opinion, the Chinese Communist Party has used it as a directed approach. because we're their adversary and they don't like us, and we don't like what they're doing when it comes to fentanyl. And their long-term game is this: how do I, in my opinion, kneecap the United States of America, our largest adversary? Well, why don't we go and take out generations of young men and women who might grow up to serve in the United States military, or become a cop, or become a teacher?
Since the mid-2010s, pressure has mounted on China. They have listed fentanyl as a narcotic. They have also curbed some of the inputs, which brings us to India now. Kash Patel says the cartels are now sourcing from India. From India, these inputs head to Mexico. In Mexico, the fentanyl is produced, and from Mexico, it is smuggled into the US. Kash Patel says he needs India's help to fight this trade. And what is New Delhi saying? Well, we haven't heard an official reaction yet, but American agencies have been cracking down. In March 2025, they published an intelligence report. It named two main suppliers of fentanyl inputs, China followed by India. Before that, in the month of January, two Indian firms were charged in the US, Raxuter Chemicals and Athos Chemicals. Their charges? Conspiracy to import and distribute fentanyl. Here in India, the government is also cracking down. In the month of March, Gujarat's anti-terror squad busted a fentanyl ring. A few chemical companies were shipping fentanyl inputs to Mexico and Guatemala. But Indian officials nabbed them. In 2024, drugs worth 25,000 crores were seized in India, 25,000 crore rupees. That's around $2.9 billion. That's also 55% higher than the year before. So India has to be extremely vigilant. Our goal is to become a pharmacy to the world, to become the top producer of medicines. So it is important to root out these bad elements. We must ensure that our chemical and pharma industry remains clean. And to be fair, the government is working towards that. At the same time, we must watch out for politicization. Just look at what Trump is doing to Canada. Less than 1% of fentanyl enters the US from Canada. Less than 1%. It made up 0.2% of all fentanyl seizures. Yet, Donald Trump imposed 25% tariffs on the Canadians for this. So India must take a nuanced approach to this problem. If there is smuggling, it must be stopped, because it does not just help America, it helps Indian industry too. It must be stopped. But if Trump tries to weaponize it, New Delhi must be ready for that too. Now let us turn to Brazil. Their president is Lula da Silva. His government wants to raise some money. Typically that means issuing government bonds and taking on debt. But this time Brazil is trying something very different. They want to issue panda bonds, which have nothing to do with the animals, the pandas. Panda bonds are about Chinese capital. They're named after China's national animal, the panda, but their roots lie in China's financial markets. A panda bond is a debt issued by a foreign government in Chinese currency, not in US dollars, not in euros, but in renminbi, the currency of China. And that is why the debt is called a panda bond. It is targeted at Chinese investors. So to put it simply, Brazil wants to borrow from Chinese investors, and for this, they will sell panda bonds. The Lula government says the sale could happen this year. When it does, Brazil would set a record. It will become the first major Latin American country to enter the panda bond club. And this is a significant move because it goes beyond investment and debt. It is a political statement from Brazil. Using a panda bond sends a message that Brazil no longer wants to stick to traditional methods of raising debt. It is willing to look beyond the US dollar. For decades, the world has borrowed in dollars. They depended on the greenback because they trusted the US dollar. It offered the deepest access to capital markets. Dollar bonds were considered the safest, but that system has begun to crack. Countries want alternatives now. They want to borrow in different currencies. They want cheaper loans. They want protection from dollar swings. And that is where the panda bonds make sense for Brazil. A bond in the renminbi can help Brazil avoid currency shocks, get access to Chinese financial markets, and tap into one of the largest cash pools in the world. Also, this is not a new move. Other countries have used panda bonds before. The list includes European nations like Poland, Hungary, and Portugal. In Asia, South Korea and the Philippines have used it. In the month of March this year, Pakistan too expressed interest in panda bonds. And no surprises there. When it comes to borrowing, Pakistan has tried just about everything. A panda bond might be the last option that they're left with. Of course, Brazil is not Pakistan. It is not short of options. Brazil can raise money from anywhere it wants to. So why is it making this pivot? Multiple reasons. First of all, because China has become a compelling option. More than 70 countries are active in China's bond market today. 70 countries. And second, trust is fading in the US. This is an America led by the mercurial Donald Trump. Initially, he tried to re-engage with South America in the early days of his administration. Senior Trump officials toured the region. But the effort has stumbled since. There is tension over tariffs, trade and immigration. And perhaps this is pushing leaders like Lula towards China and to alliances like the BRICS. Listen to this.
This is not about taking a stance for or against Trump. The Global South has a single goal: growth and development. The BRICS have no enemies, nor do they want any. However, the countries of the South have been treated for too long as mere developing nations that pose no problem to anyone. That era is over. The BRICS now account for 39% of global GDP and more than half the world's population. We have become an essential economic and political player to be reckoned with.
BRICS has become a force. That's the opinion of President Lula, and it's no secret that Trump is actively trying to stop BRICS. He has threatened the group with 100% tariffs, although Lula remains unfazed.
Trump's threat does not scare anyone. We will act in the interests of our countries, and we will fight for fairer international trade. It is neither simple nor easy, but it is out of the question to ask Washington's permission to choose the currency we consider most suitable for our trade.
That statement should make Trump think. Because the currency you borrow in shapes your economy. It shapes your risk. It shapes your independence. And that is why panda bonds matter far beyond Brazil. They are a sign that power is dispersing, that the global South is exploring new routes to capital where China has a greater role. It is not just a trading partner now. It is now a banker to many countries. Where does that leave the US dollar? It is still dominant, but it's less influential. South America was once Washington's backyard. Now it's a chessboard where Beijing is making strong moves. And staying with the region, political violence has stunned Colombia. The country is going to polls next year. Citizens will vote to elect their next president, so candidates are on the campaign trail. This includes Miguel Uribe. He is 39 years old. He was giving a speech on Saturday in a park when he was shot at 3 times, twice in the head. He fell down and bled before he was taken to hospital, while his assailant tried to flee and failed. The suspect, by the way, is just 15 years old. He has been arrested. This entire incident was captured on camera. It has left Colombia and the world horrified. Why did a teen shoot at the presidential candidate? And is this attack a sign of Colombia's return to its bloodied past? Here's a report.
An assassination attempt against a presidential hopeful. It was all captured on video, and it has rocked Colombia. This is the highest profile incident of political violence in Colombia in years. The victim is Miguel Uribe Turbay. Uribe is a 39-year-old conservative politician. He is the grandson of a former Colombian president and a presidential candidate himself. Colombia is going to polls next year to elect their next president. So Uribe has been on a campaign trail. On Saturday, he was at a campaign event in the capital, Bogotá. He was delivering a speech. Suddenly, multiple loud bangs rang out. Uribe winced and crumpled to the ground. As he bled, many people fled in panic, while some supporters and the police rushed him to an ambulance. The assailant was in the crowd. Mid-speech, he raised a handgun and shot Uribe from behind thrice, twice in the head. He tried running away but was shot in the leg by police and pinned down. The assailant is a 15-year-old. He was carrying a 9mm Glock-type firearm, and he has been arrested. His motive remains unclear, and an investigation is underway. There is speculation that the minor was not acting alone.
There should be no resource spared, not a single peso, not a single moment of energy, dedicated exclusively to finding the masterminds with their real names in the place where they live, whether in Colombia or abroad.
After the attack, Uribe was airlifted to a hospital and rushed into surgery. He continues to remain in intensive care. His condition is serious. The attack has drawn international condemnation. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has called the attack a direct threat to democracy. As people carry out vigils on the streets of Bogotá, Colombia is horrified after the incident.
I acknowledge that, as a leader and international representative of this country, I have failed. Many of us have failed at this time. We have failed to provide security and peace for all Colombians.
I feel sadness, uselessness, anger. No one can express themselves. Whoever expresses a different opinion gets murdered.
Many Colombians fear that the nation is headed back to its blooded past. Between 1980s and early 2000s, attacks from Colombian criminal groups were common in major cities. They used kidnappings and assassinations to sow discord and pressure the government. Uribe's mother was among the victims. She was a popular journalist. In a highly publicized case, she was killed in 1991 after being kidnapped by Pablo Escobar's cartel. Uribe was 4 years old at the time.
We cannot return to those times. Uribe is a victim of violence. His mother died when he was about the same age as his son is now. This is a Colombian tragedy that we cannot accept.
Colombian President Gustavo Petro was elected in 2022 with the promise of bringing peace in the country. But amid a rise in kidnappings and violence, he has made little headway, inviting criticism from both the right and the left. Uribe has been a vocal critic of Petro. The next presidential election is not for a year. But experts say that the attack on Uribe is a clear message that he is no longer a symbol of the country's violent past. Without a political solution, the assassination attempt against Uribe could be a sign of what the Colombian future looks like.
Our next story is from Saudi Arabia. It was hosting the Hajj, Islam's holiest pilgrimage. It's an annual affair. Nearly 2 million Muslims arrive in Mecca, and this year was no different. The pilgrims came in droves, praying, walking and circling the Kaaba, the holy structure at the center of the Grand Mosque. And watching over them were not just security officials and clerics, but also America's Patriot missile systems. That's right, Saudi Arabia deployed American missile systems to secure the Hajj. Look at these images. They were posted by Saudi Arabia's Ministry of Defense. They show the Patriot missile system parked right in the middle of the holy city. And it's not just the missiles. There were multiple pictures of helicopters hovering over the city, of soldiers keeping watch, and reports say this is not new. Saudi Arabia has deployed the Patriot missiles to guard the Mecca before. The question is why? What kind of attack did they fear, and from whom? Experts say the roots of this defensive posture run deep. In 2015, Saudi Arabia entered the war in Yemen. They backed the Yemeni government in Sana'a. It was fighting the Houthi rebels. This was in 2015. It's a war that Saudis remain mired in. And the Houthis have not been defeated. If anything, they've been attacking Saudi cities. Over the years, they've fired dozens of ballistic missiles and drones into Saudi Arabia. Most were intercepted, some of them landed, and a few were allegedly aimed towards the Mecca. Reports say in 2016, a missile flew towards the holy city. Saudi Arabia says it was intercepted in the skies, and the Houthis have denied it. Then in 2019, similar reports emerged. They said missiles were intercepted near Jeddah. Saudi Arabia says that the target was Mecca. Again, the Houthis denied it. They said that they never tried to attack the Mecca. But the Saudis apparently did not want to take any more chances, so in 2019, they deployed the Patriot missile system during the Hajj pilgrimage. And in the years since, the security situation in West Asia has only worsened. There's a war raging in Gaza. Israel is bombing the Gaza Strip. Meanwhile, rockets are flying in from Yemen. The Houthis have been targeting Israel with missiles and drones. So Riyadh stepped up security arrangements because the Hajj is too big to mess up. And Mecca is not just a holy city. For Muslims, it is the birthplace of Islam. For Saudi Arabia, it is the jewel in the crown, the heart of its legitimacy. This is the pillar on which Saudi Arabia built its moral authority. So any attack on the Mecca, even a possibility, is not just a military threat. It's an existential one for Riyadh, which is why the kingdom turned to American firepower. In fact, Saudi Arabia was the first country in West Asia to purchase the Patriot missile system. It used it to bolster air defenses during the 1991 Gulf War. And since then, the system has been upgraded and redeployed many times. In 2022, the US approved the sale of 300 Patriot missiles to Saudi Arabia. This was part of a $3 billion defense package. The Patriot, as you may know, is a surface-to-air missile defense system. It is designed to detect, track, and shoot down enemy missiles mid-air. And that's not all. Saudi Arabia pulled out all the stops during the Hajj. There were tens of thousands of security officers, surveillance drones, and emergency response units. Along with these missile defense systems, a lot of other security arrangements were in place. The pilgrims walking through Mecca may or may not have noticed all of this. They came for God, not geopolitics. But the arrangements show that even the holiest of cities are not immune to the dangers of modern warfare. Holy cities, too, need a shield. And for Saudi Arabia, that shield is made in America. It's 2025, but Southeast Asia is still living with the borders drawn in 1907. The Europeans drew these borders for convenience, but the region is still living with its consequences. Take Thailand and Cambodia, two neighbors sharing over 800 kilometers of border. Yet, historical disputes over land simmer beneath the surface. Last month, those tensions boiled over. A Cambodian soldier was killed in a clash. In response, Thailand shut its border and sent in reinforcements. Both sides are now bracing for what could come next. Is this just a flare-up? Or are we on the brink of something bigger? Our next report tells you.
On May 28th, a Cambodian soldier was killed in a brief military clash with Thai forces near the Emerald Triangle. This is where Thailand, Cambodia, and Laos meet. The clash wasn't a full-scale war, but it wasn't an isolated accident either. The two sides exchanged fire. Cambodia claimed Thailand attacked first. Thailand said it was responding to gunshots. Either way, the border went hot, and tensions followed. The soldier's death is a rare fatality along the long sensitive frontier. So, why are Thailand and Cambodia fighting? The root of this dispute is a badly drawn map from 1907. This is from when Cambodia was still under French colonial rule. France and Siam, that is modern-day Thailand, drew up a border. Right now, Thailand and Cambodia share an 817-kilometer border. But the boundary, especially near ancient temples, was vague. Fast forward a century, and both countries now claim sovereignty over certain overlapping zones. In 2008, things escalated violently when Thai and Cambodian troops clashed near the Preah Vihear, an 11th century Hindu temple. That conflict dragged on for years with 28 deaths and diplomatic breakdowns. In 2011, it got so bad that the UN had to step in. In 2013, the International Court of Justice ruled the disputed land belonged to Cambodia. Thailand wasn't impressed. It rejected the ruling and insisted on solving things bilaterally. This year, tensions had already been simmering. A viral video showed Cambodian women singing a patriotic song near another disputed temple, prompting a formal Thai protest. Then came the May 28th clash, where one soldier was killed. Both sides accused each other and added troop reinforcements on the ground. Thailand shut down 2 border crossings to tourists. The Thai army said it was ready to defend its national sovereignty. Thailand says Cambodia reinforced troops first. The army is ready for a high-level operation, if needed. But trade and movement of workers continue, so this isn't a full shutdown.
I want both sides there at the border to remain calm and discuss what we can agree upon. I hope we can have peaceful discussion.
The thing is, there was misunderstanding on both sides. Both sides have spoken about where the operations were taking place in the area and have claimed that the other side has encroached on the territory.
Cambodia said it wouldn't withdraw troops from the area. It's a matter of sovereignty and national security. They're defending national territory based on international law. Both sides insist they want peace, while still increasing troop presence. There is an effort to de-escalate. On June 2nd, both militaries agreed to reposition troops away from flashpoints. Thai PM Paetongtarn Shinawatra said talks have reached a positive conclusion. A joint boundary commission meeting is scheduled for June 14th, where the two sides will try to resolve their long-standing differences. So at the moment, this is not a full-blown war, but it is a serious standoff. It highlights the fragility of Southeast Asia's borders, many of which are based on colonial-era agreements. All eyes are on the June 14th talks. If both sides de-escalate, the standoff might quietly fade, as it has in the past years. But if there's another flare-up, this could spiral quickly.
It's a busy week for French President Emmanuel Macron. Right now, he is hosting a mega summit in Paris, a UN conference on oceans. After that, he will travel to Greenland, the same Greenland that is coveted by Donald Trump. Macron will visit the island on Sunday. The Prime Minister of Denmark will join him there. Both of them will be hosted by Greenland's new leader. And the agenda? Macron made that clear today itself. He spoke at the opening of the UN conference. Listen to what he said.
Let me make this very clear. The deep oceans are not for sale, nor is Greenland, nor is Antarctica, nor are the high seas, nor are the fishing licenses for developing countries.
Greenland is not for sale. That's the message, a clear message to the US president. And the import of the message is back off. Trump has repeatedly talked about taking over Greenland. At one point, he also suggested using force. And this has clearly worried Europe because Greenland is a semi-autonomous region of Denmark, and Denmark is a NATO and EU member. So Trump basically threatened to invade an ally, which is why Emmanuel Macron is traveling there. He wants to show solidarity with Greenland. As for the talks, they will focus on strategic issues like Arctic security, energy transition, and critical minerals. And Denmark is also quite happy about it. They're calling it a testimony of European unity. But frankly, this is not just about Greenland. This is about Macron's grand ambitions. He knows that Trump is withdrawing from world affairs, so he is trying to fill that gap, Macron. Basically, he's offering an alternative path. And I'll give you 3 recent examples. The first is Macron's trip to Southeast Asia last month. The trip may have been overshadowed by the infamous slap, but Macron's pitch was quite powerful there. Don't feel pressured by China or America. France will offer a third way. That is what he offered, and the idea was quite simple. Southeast Asia faces security challenges from China. They face tariff pressure from Trump. So Macron said, why don't you join us? That's the first example. Now to the second one, defense. Trump is moving away from European security. He is more focused on China. So what does Macron do? He offers the French nuclear shield to European countries. Some quick context here. Only one EU member has nuclear missiles, and that is France. The others mainly rely on American protection. But what if Trump pulls that protection? Well, Macron says, do not worry. He will use French nukes to defend Europe. And finally, the third example. Macron spoke about science today, specifically about climate science. We know that Trump is not convinced about climate change. He pulled America out of the Paris Accords. He also cut funding to scientific research. And the French president took aim at that.
For several years now, we've been hearing that, basically, climate change, the threat to biodiversity, the problem of the oceans, all of that is a matter of opinion. In fact, we could do without it. Besides, we're not entirely sure. And I'm even noticing that some people are cutting funding to continue research in this area. I'm going to tell you, no, we don't have the right to do that because it's not an opinion, it's scientifically established. And so it is a political, ethical, and scientific duty to continue to fund free, open, and cooperative science, to continue to understand, research, and base our decisions on this science.
That sums up Macron's plan. Stuck between China and America, turn to France for help. Afraid of losing American protection, take shelter under French nuclear weapons. Scared about climate denial, join France in its scientific crusade. There is clearly a pattern to what Emmanuel Macron is doing, and it's not exactly new. The French have always had radical ideas to break free from the US. The problem was no one in Brussels listened to them. But Donald Trump has solved that problem for Paris. He has shaken Europe into taking radical decisions. The question is, what is the end game? What is Macron's vision here? In public statements, he has always talked about multilateralism. In Southeast Asia, he talked about it. In February, at the Artificial Intelligence Summit, he spoke about it. And again today at the UN conference. Clearly, Macron feels that France will gain from a multipolar world. Even his outreach to India stems from that. If he succeeds, Europe would become one of those poles, and naturally France would lead them. In a nutshell, that is Macron's ambition. But is he reaching beyond his grasp? Does France have the clout to bring about this transformation? I guess his trip to Greenland will offer some clues. Iranians are not allowed to do a lot of things. They cannot dance in public, they cannot wear sleeveless shirts, they cannot drink, women cannot bicycle in many cities, they cannot be seen without a hijab. If caught flouting these rules, people face harsh punishments from fines to flogging to even death. But why am I telling you all of this? Because now the regime has further tightened its leash on personal freedoms. Now even walking a dog is banned in about 20 Iranian cities. Pet dogs are no longer allowed in public, they cannot be taken for walks, they cannot be seen inside a vehicle. So what is behind this move? Here's a report.
Imagine this. It is a pleasant, sunny Sunday morning. You have taken your pet dog out for a walk, maybe even a game of fetch in the park. Sounds fun, doesn't it? Well, if you live in Iran, you may not be able to do it anymore. In 2019, the country introduced a police order. It barred dog walking in the capital, Tehran. Now, Iranian officials have expanded this ban on dog walking to at least 18 other cities, including Isfahan and Kerman, which have implemented bans in recent days. Transporting dogs in vehicles has also been outlawed, and the punishment? It depends from city to city. In some parts, law enforcement has been directed to confiscate vehicles transporting dogs. In the city of Ilam, legal action will be taken against violators. In Isfahan, dog walking will be seen as a quote-unquote violation of public rights and will be dealt with seriously. But what's driving this move? Since the Islamic Revolution of 1979, dog ownership has been frowned upon in Iran. Dogs are seen as a legacy of Western culture and viewed as unclean by authorities. Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has previously described dog ownership as reprehensible, unless it is for the purpose of herding, hunting, or security. Iranian politicians regard pet ownership, especially dog ownership, as un-Islamic. Many religious scholars view coming in contact with dogs and their saliva ritually impure. In fact, Saudi Arabia too had previously banned pets on transportation, but lifted it in 2023. Meanwhile, Iran has taken one measure after another. In 2010, they banned advertisements for pets and pet-related products. In 2014, a bill was introduced in the parliament to fine and flog dog walkers, though it did not pass. In 2019 came the Tehran dog walking ban. In 2021, 75 lawmakers condemned dog ownership, calling it a destructive social problem that could change the Islamic way of life. And now, More than a dozen cities have banned dog walking. Though, despite the range of efforts, dog ownership is rising in Iran, especially among young people. They view it as a form of rebellion against the restrictive regime. After all, dogs are merely caught in a long-standing crossfire, which also includes dancing, drinking alcohol, and the compulsory wearing of hijab by women. If the rules are flouted, punishments range from fines to flogging to death penalties. Nevertheless, young Iranians are quietly rebelling, sometimes by appearing in public without the compulsory headscarf, other times by attending underground parties. So experts say making dogs off limits is only going to worsen the scenario, especially as restrictions in the past have not helped much. In Tehran, many dog owners have continued to walk their dogs in public, and even with the ban's expansion, there is no national law in place. Local restrictions are both varying and vague. Critics say that the recent crackdown is less about dogs, more about Tehran lashing out. It is a case of misplaced priorities. As Iran tightens the leash on personal freedoms, it is more about barking than biting.
What is a US president's biggest threat? You may think Russia or Iran or China, but the real answer is a flight of stairs. Specifically, the stairs on Air Force One. They haunted Joe Biden for most of his presidency, and now they're haunting Donald Trump. He stumbled while climbing those stairs yesterday. Though unlike Biden, it wasn't a complete fall. If you ask me, the problem is not with Trump or Biden, the problem is with the stairs, because moments later, Marco Rubio stumbled at the very same place. And Rubio is just 54 years old, so what's his excuse? Well, the internet has theories. And now it's time for Vantage Shots, images that tell the story. Israeli forces intercept and seize an aid boat heading towards Gaza, which was also carrying Greta Thunberg. NASA astronaut captures a time lapse of the Northern Lights, and a runaway zebra named Ed was rescued after a week on the run. Finally, we're taking you back in history. On this day in 1934, Donald Duck made his first movie appearance. The character featured in Walt Disney's The Wise Little Hen. Donald Duck remains Disney's most popular character. He's also the most published comic book character in the world after superheroes. We're leaving you on that note. Thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.